You took 15,000 men into the Riverlands against 40,000. You sat on a hill and made them go home without a single battle.
Fighting was never the right answer. He wanted a fight he could control. I gave him a wall instead.
I've been standing in yards and on battlefields my whole life. I know what a weapon looks like. I know what a general looks like. I have never seen what you are. We didn't just raise a son in that yard. We built something the realm doesn't have a word for yet.
Then give it time. It's only getting started.
What if Jon Snow was the trueborn son of King Robert Baratheon and Lyanna Stark? Let's explore this alternate timeline together. In the video, 3 years have passed since the coronation feast, where Jon Baratheon was announced as Prince of Dragonstone, and the boy the court remembers from that night has become something the lords of the Seven Kingdoms are still finding words for. They say he has his father's build, and they are not wrong. He is 18 years old and 6 feet and 4 inches of Baratheon blood, the same breadth of shoulder Robert carried into the Trident, the same hands, the same way of occupying space that makes a room feel smaller when he enters it. But they say it, and then they stop, because saying it fully would require them to admit that whatever has come out of the forging of Robert Baratheon and Lyanna Stark is not a sum. It is something the realm has not seen before. The training yard at King's Landing has run out of willing opponents, not because no man will face him, but because the men who face him come away with a particular look, something between recalibration and quiet reverence. And after enough of those looks, the yard develops an understanding of what volunteering for the prince's sparring sessions actually involves. The practice posts tell their own story. The wood splits at the joint rather than the surface, because the force driving the hammer arrives from below the post's center of gravity, and the post never compensates in time. The timber merchants replacing them have quietly revised their estimates. Sir Barristan Selmy watches from the fence one morning as Jon works through a sequence against 3 men-at-arms in rotation. Not the explosive forward charge Robert was known for, but something more controlled and more frightening for its control. It has direction, reads the room, knows 3 moves ahead where the opening will be. When the sequence ends and the 3 men-at-arms are standing with their chests heaving and the prince is breathing as if he has been on a short walk, Sir Barristan tells Robert that in 40 years on a battlefield, he has seen one man with that combination of size and precision, and that man was not a good thing to fight. Robert does not disagree. The war arrives the way Tywin Lannister's moves always arrive, through the back entrance, in unmarked clothing, deniable at every step. A village in the Riverlands is burned. 31 people are killed at Miller's Ford, 3 days east of River Run, by armed men in unmarked leather who spoke with Western accents and seemed entirely certain of their purpose. The report reaches King's Landing inside a week. 3 days after that, a letter arrives from Casterly Rock expressing immaculate sorrow at the outrages committed by brigands in the lawless border country and offering the full resources of House Lannister in bringing the responsible parties to justice. Robert reads both letters in his solar, standing because he does not sit when he is working through something that is going to require a decision.
This is a door. He is trying to open a door that I have kept closed for 3 years. He burns a village and then offers to help me find out who burned it. And if I say yes to the help, I have invited the lion back into the room. In 6 months, the helping has become stationing. And in 2 years, he is the most powerful man between the Red Fork and the Golden Tooth. And it happened by invitation. He has been patient long enough that he believes I will have forgotten what patience at that scale looks like from the other side of it. He is wrong about that.
He is also wrong about something else. He has spent 20 years studying you. He knows how you move when you are angry. He knows how you move when you are deliberate. He knows the pace of a Baratheon campaign and the shape of a Baratheon decision. He has done the work of building a complete picture of his opponent, and he is confident in the picture. That is his vulnerability. The picture he has built does not include me, because I have not existed as a military variable for long enough to study. He is expecting the hammer he knows. I am a hammer he has never held.
You want to lead the field?
I want to lead the field, yes. And I want to tell you why it is the correct move, and not just the move I want. If you send the royal army under your own banner, he calls it aggression against a loyal lord, and he has the sympathy of half the realm before the first engagement. If you send me under my own banner, I am the Crown Prince responding to an attack on Crown subjects, which is exactly what I am. And he has no rhetorical ground to stand on. He also does not have a map for me. He does not know my pace, my preparation, or the fact that I have spent 2 years studying the ground between the Golden Tooth and River Run. I know his 3 possible approach routes, and I know the one place where all 3 of them funnel into a single crossing that cannot be bypassed or flanked. If I am sitting on that ground before he arrives, he has a choice between fighting uphill into prepared archers or going home.
He has 40,000 swords.
He has 40,000 swords in the wrong position. Position is everything, and he will not be able to correct his position without either fighting his way through me or withdrawing. And fighting his way through me in that terrain costs him 15,000 men before he closes the distance. He will not pay that price. He is too careful a man to pay that price for a crossing he does not need to take when the alternative is withdrawing with his army intact and waiting for another opportunity. I am not trying to destroy the Lannister army. I am trying to make using it too expensive to be worth the attempt.
And if you are wrong?
Then I have made an error in reading the ground, and I live with the consequences of that error. But I am not wrong. I have walked every approach route in my head more times than I can count, and the math is not close. The crossing holds if I am on it first. The question is whether I can get there first, and I can, because he will not expect me to come through the hill country north of the Gold Road. The routes are difficult. They are passable for men traveling light. He will be watching the main road.
You have never had men's lives in your hands.
No, and that is going to change on this campaign, and I'm not pretending it will not. I have thought about what it means to be wrong when being wrong costs other men their lives and not just my own pride. And I have decided that the answer is not to avoid making decisions. The answer is to make them as carefully as I am capable of making them, and then to own whatever they cost, and then to learn what they teach. A general who will not decide because deciding risks being wrong is not a general. He is a man standing in the road while the other man's army walks around him.
That is a better answer than I expected from an 18-year-old.
It is the answer your mother gave me when I was 14, and I was hesitating in the yard because I was afraid of committing the wrong way. It has applied to everything since.
Robert is quiet for a long moment. He looks at his son the way he looked at his warhammer the morning after the Trident, turning the weight of it over in his mind before committing to the swing.
15,000. Take the northern levies Recut is sending down and the Baratheon men from the Stormlands. No royal banner on the march. Your banner only. And Jon, I want you to understand something before you go. I spent the whole of the rebellion moving forward, and it was the right way to fight that war because the war required it, and there was nothing behind me worth protecting. You have something behind you. The restraint your mother told you about is not weakness. A man who wins without being cruel is harder to hate and harder to challenge and harder to replace than a man who wins by burning everything around him. Win this clean.
I know how to win it clean.
I know you do. I am saying it anyway because you are my son, and it is my right.
Lyanna finds him in the armory the evening before the march, and she does not ask him to reconsider. And she does not perform worry, because she has never been a woman who performs anything. She stands in the doorway and watches him check the balance of his warhammer, the one Robert had made to his proportions the previous winter, and she is quiet for long enough that he knows she is choosing her words.
Your father told me the whole plan this afternoon. He was trying to look neutral about it, which with your father means his face was doing 11 things at once, and he thought none of them were visible. He is proud, he is also frightened, which he will not say, and which I am saying for him because someone should.
Tell him I noted it.
I will. I want to say something separate from his feelings, though. Something that is mine and not his. You are going to walk into the Riverlands with 15,000 men against 40,000, and you are going to win. And when you come back, there will be a version of this story that says, you were reckless and lucky. There will be another version that says you were brilliant. I want you to know that neither of those stories is what matters. What matters is what you know about what you actually did and why, because the story you tell yourself about this campaign is the story that shapes the next decision, and the decision after that, and the 20 years of decisions that follow. Win for the right reasons and know what the right reasons were when it is over.
You are telling me not to fall in love with being merciless.
I'm telling you that Merciless is a tool that cuts in both directions if you hold it wrong. Your father held it right during the rebellion and then held it wrong for years afterward, because a man who has only ever needed one tool reaches for it even when it is not the right one. You have more tools than he had at your age. Use all of them. Be everything you are when the hammer is down, and the brain behind it is the thing that actually decided where it landed.
You are also telling me something about yourself.
What do you mean?
You spent a year in a tower watching what happens when a man decides his purpose is more important than the people in his way. Rhaegar was merciless in his own fashion, not with a hammer, with a certainty that what he needed was simply more important than what other people needed. You watched what that looks like from the inside of it, and you are looking at me with a hammer in my hands and telling me not to become the thing that put you in that tower. I hear you.
Lyanna is very still for a moment. Then she says something she does not often say, which is nothing, and the nothing means more than a sentence would.
Come back whole. The kingdom can wait for the rest.
He is on the march in 3 days. 15,000 men moving through the Riverlands, along routes that avoid every road the Lannister scouts are watching. The Northmen are accustomed to silence on the move, and the Stormlanders learn it quickly when the prince explains what the silence is for. The column moves through the hill country north of the Gold Road, in difficult and largely unwatched terrain that Jon has been studying on maps for 2 years. He arrives at the Tumblestone Crossing 4 days ahead of the Lannister vanguard. The high ground above the South Ford is exactly what the maps promised, and by the time the Lannister scouts reach the eastern edge of the ridge, they find 15,000 men entrenched on high ground, with archers on the slopes and the hammer companies on the narrow flat below, where the ground funnels anything approaching either ford into a corridor 100 yards wide. Tywin reads the scout report with the stillness of a man who does not change his expression when receiving news he does not like, and thinks for a long time about what it means that Robert Baratheon's son is sitting on the Tumblestone Crossing 4 days before a response was expected, and came there through country no general who had studied Robert's campaigns would have used, and is sitting on the precise ground that makes 40,000 swords meaningless. He does not attempt the crossing. He withdraws behind the Golden Tooth. Jon holds the high ground 3 more days, then sends a single rider west with a single message in his own hand. I am still here. The question is whether you are coming back. Tywin does not come back. 3 weeks later, a Lannister raven arrives in King's Landing offering compensation for Miller's Ford and a formal withdrawal of forces, written in language so diplomatic it is practically decorative, but containing, beneath the decoration, the only 2 things that matter, the money and the retreat. Jon returns to a reception noisier than he expected. Robert meets him in the yard before the official welcome has properly assembled itself, because Robert has never been a man who waits for official assemblies when he has something to say.
He never crossed.
He looked at the ground and made the correct calculation. I gave him a problem that cost more to solve than to walk away from. He is too good a general to pay a price he does not have to pay. The important thing is that he walked away having understood something he did not understand before, which is that the response he expected is not the response he is going to receive. He built his planning around you. He is going to have to rebuild it around me, and that process takes time. And during that time, he is not moving.
You gave him nothing to report to the realm. No battle, no bodies, no dramatic clash. You just sat on a hill and made him go home.
Yes, which means there is no heroic story he can tell about the Lannister army being heroically defeated. He was outmaneuvered before the fighting started, and he walked away because walking away was the intelligent choice. That is more humiliating than losing a battle, and he knows it, and I know he knows it, and he knows that I know he knows it. The message was in the geometry of the position. I did not need to say it out loud.
I need to tell you something, and I need to say it while we are standing here in this yard before the celebration swallows us both. When I was your age and I won something, I always knew I had won it because I was the strongest man on the field and I was willing to commit completely. And the other man was not. That was the formula. That was the whole of it. You just sat on a hill with 15,000 men and made 40,000 go home without swinging anything, and you did it because you understood the ground and the man and the calculation better than he did. That is not my formula. That is something new. I have been trying to figure out for 3 years what exactly we built in that yard, and I think I finally understand it. We built something that does not have a formula yet. something the realm is going to have to invent new language for.
You are proud.
I am terrified and proud in equal measure, which is the condition your mother has been managing me in for about 18 years now, and I suspect is permanent. Yes, I am proud. Now go clean up. There is a hall full of lords who want to tell you how impressive you are, and it is your duty as the crown prince to stand there and let them do it without looking like you want to leave.
I do want to leave.
I know. That is also something you got from your mother. Go anyway. Your mother is going to say she told me so.
She told you so.
She did. I am going to go hear about it now.
The celebration has not entirely cooled when the Martell delegation rides into King's Landing, and it is not a diplomatic mission in any sense the word is usually employed. It is Oberyn Martell, the Red Viper of Dawn, with 20 men, and a grief that has been honing itself for 3 years on the whetstone of Elia's death and the silence of the throne that followed it. He is received in the Great Hall with the courtesy owed a lord's envoy. He makes his case with the precision of a man who has rehearsed every sentence while also meaning every word of it. He speaks about Elia, about the children, about what was done to them in the sack, and whose hands did it, and whose gold paid for those hands. And the hall is very quiet, because even the lords who find Dawn inconvenient know better than to be noisy, while Oberyn Martell is speaking about his dead sister. And then he looks at Lyanna on the throne beside Robert, and he says the thing he came to say.
The queen returned from her tower. My sister did not return from hers. I think about that symmetry often. I think about the fact that this queen sits in comfort and in power at the right hand of the king who won the war that killed my sister, and the men who killed her have received no justice and offered no accounting and live their comfortable lives in the Westerlands as if my sister was a minor inconvenience they have long since stopped thinking about. I want the realm to understand that Dorne has not stopped thinking about it. Dorne will never stop thinking about it, and Dorne has very long arms and a very clear memory of what those arms are for. I say this plainly, so there is no diplomatic ambiguity about what I mean. A queen who sits on a throne while another queen's children go unavenged is sitting on borrowed comfort, and the debt has a due date, and Dorne intends to present it.
He bows and leaves the hall with his 20 men, and the hall spends the rest of the day being very carefully and very uncomfortably diplomatic about what it has just heard. Jon does not speak in the hall. He does not speak at dinner either, listening to Robert's controlled fury and Lyanna's colder analysis of what Oberyn said and what it means and what Dorne is genuinely capable of bringing to bear. And he participates in neither conversation. He is thinking about something else. He is thinking about a road south and a specific piece of information, which is that Oberyn Martell currently resides in a townhouse in King's Landing that he keeps for extended visits, and that the Red Viper is known to keep late hours and dismiss his guards at midnight, and that 4 men and a warhammer are not a difficult thing to move quietly through a city at night. He tells his parents he is riding to Dragonstone on the morning tide to review the garrison, which is true, and he does ride to Dragonstone, and he does review the garrison, and then he rides south. He takes 4 men. He does not take a herald. He does not send a raven. He travels through the Reach and across the Boneway with the speed of a small group not trying to be seen, and by the time anyone in Sunspear understands that the Prince of Dragonstone is in Dorne, he is already inside the walls of the estate where Oberyn keeps his house when he is not in the water gardens. Oberyn is in his study reviewing correspondence when the door opens. He looks up expecting a servant. He sees Jon Baratheon in the doorway with 4 men behind him, and he begins to stand, and he begins to say something about the customs of announced arrivals. He does not finish the sentence. Jon moves through the doorway with the same economy he uses in the training yard when the decision has been made and the distance has closed, and there is no longer any reason to delay what is coming. The warhammer comes down on Oberyn Martell's right leg below the knee with the full, ground-up, certain force of everything the past 3 years have built, and the sound it makes is the kind of sound that does not leave a room. And Oberyn Martell goes down. He does not cry out at first. He is a man of exceptional pride and exceptional pain tolerance, and both of them hold the sound back briefly. Then the breath comes out of him in a long hiss, and he looks at his leg, and then he looks up at the prince standing over him. Jon has not moved. His breathing is even. His expression is the one his mother wears when she has finished a piece of thinking and arrived somewhere that is not going to change.
You are alive because I decided you should be alive. I want to be clear about that before anything else is said. I had 3 days on the road south to make a decision about what was going to happen in this room, and keeping you alive was the decision I made. I am not a man who makes a decision and then changes it because the decision becomes inconvenient. So you are going to be alive at the end of this conversation, and your leg is going to heal if a Meister sees it in the next few hours, and you are going to go on being Oberyn Martell for as long as the gods allow. That is what I chose. I want you to understand the choosing of it before you hear anything else.
Oberyn looks up at him from the floor. The pain is there, and he is not performing anything about it. But behind the pain is the quick and watchful intelligence working through what has just happened, and what is being said, and what the shape of this situation now is.
You stood in my father's hall, and you threatened my mother. You used careful language, and you left yourself room to call it something other than a threat. But every person in that room understood what it was, and she understood what it was. I want you to know what that means to me personally. My mother spent nearly a year in a tower in the Red Hills of this country, being held by a man who decided she was a piece on a board and not a person with her own will. She survived it. She came home. She sits on the Iron Throne, as she has every right to sit there, and she has built something with my father that the realm has not seen before and may not see again. And I am the product of what she survived, and I am standing in this room, and no one in this world threatens her while I am alive and receives nothing in answer. No one. The title attached to the person making the threat is irrelevant to that principle.
You have shattered the leg of a Dornish prince in his own house. You understand what Dorne's response to this will be.
I understand what you will want Dorne's response to be. I also understand what Dorne's response should be if Dorne is thinking clearly about its own interests, which is different from what it will want. Let me tell you what I am offering, because there is an offer, and the offer is the reason you are alive. The men who killed your sister and her children have not been brought to justice. My father has known for 3 years who gave the order and whose hands carried it out. And he has moved slowly because the first years of a reign require compromises that he was not able to avoid, and that he will tell you himself were mistakes. The mistake is going to be corrected. Sir Gregor Clegane will be tried for what was done to Elia. The man who commanded him will be named and answered for. Dorne will have what it is owed. This is not a political offer. It is a personal guarantee from me. And you will find that my guarantees are worth exactly what I say they are worth, which is everything.
And the price?
The price is Dorne choosing to receive what it is owed through a process that does not require me to come back to Sunspear for a different reason. You are a man of intelligence, and I will not insult that intelligence by pretending the two parts of this conversation are unrelated. I came here today because I needed the threat against my mother to stop, and I needed the stopping of it to be unmistakable. I am offering you a genuine path to the justice you have been demanding for 3 years in exchange for Dorne extending the same courtesy to my family that I am extending to you right now, which is the decision to leave them alive and intact.
You came to Dorne with 4 men. You walked into my house.
I came to Dorne with 4 men because the message had to arrive in person, and I was the right person to bring it. A letter can be dismissed. A raven can be interpreted. This cannot be interpreted. You will remember what happened in this room for the rest of your life. And every time you remember it, you will also remember what was said afterward and why. And you will know that it was all true.
Oberyn is quiet for a long moment. He has fought men all his life. He has studied them. He has learned the difference between a man performing danger and a man who is simply dangerous. And the young man standing over him with a warhammer has no performance in him at all. What Oberyn is looking at is a thing he has encountered very rarely, which is someone who is exactly what they appear to be, no more and no less, and who has done what they did without need of an audience and without any requirement for his approval.
Your father would have come with an army.
My father would have come with an army and burned half of Dorne to make the point. I came with 4 men because I did not want to burn Dorne. I wanted to make a point and make an offer, and I only needed 4 men for that. The hammer was for the point. The words are for the offer. You are intelligent enough to tell the difference between the two.
What you have done here will not be kept quiet.
Good. I do not want it kept quiet. I want the realm to know that the Prince of Dragonstone came to Sunspear with 4 men and said what he came to say. The details can be whatever you tell people they are. I will not contradict the version you choose to tell, because how you tell this story is your own business, and I have no interest in controlling it. What I care about is that you understood what happened in this room while it was happening.
Most men who come to threaten me come with armies. You came with a warhammer and 4 men, and you broke my leg in my own study before I could say a word, and now you are offering me justice for my sister. You are a very strange young man.
I came with what the situation required. No more. The situation required a message and an offer. An army delivers neither. An army is a declaration of war. What I delivered was a conversation. A very one-sided conversation at the beginning, I will grant you that, but a conversation.
And if I refuse the offer?
Then Dawn refuses it and lives with whatever that means for the relationship between your house and mine for the next 50 years. I am going to be king for a long time. My father was a young man when he won his throne, and I am younger still. The decision you make in this room today is a decision about what kind of kingdom you want to be living in when your grandchildren are old. That is the scale I am asking you to think on. Not this year, not this grievance as real as it is. The whole long future of it.
You are 18 years old.
Yes, which means I have been thinking about the long future of things since I was old enough to understand that I was going to be sitting at the end of it. You have been thinking about Elia for 3 years. I have been thinking about this kingdom for 18. We are working on different timescales, and I am asking you to consider mine.
He looks at Oberyn on the floor for one more moment, and then he moves toward the door.
Send for a master. The leg heals clean if it is said in the next 2 hours. Do not wait longer than that.
He leaves Sunspear before noon and rides north into the grey Dornish morning with 4 men, and the desert closes behind him. In his room with the Maester working on his leg, Oberyn Martell looks at the ceiling and thinks through what just happened with the attention he gives to things he did not expect. And after a long time, something happens in his face that the Maester recognizes. The expression of a man who has met something worth respecting and knows it. The Martell Raven arrives at King's Landing 11 days later. It is addressed to the Prince of Dragonstone and contains 6 words. Tell me about the Lannister offer. Robert reads it in the solar, standing, with Lyanna beside him and Jon at the window. He reads it twice, sets it on the desk, and looks at his son for a long moment.
You went to Sunspear with 4 men and came back with a negotiation. I want you to tell me everything. Starting with how you got past the outer walls without announcing yourself, and I want you to tell me slowly because your mother is going to want the full account.
The outer walls at the Martell estate have a service entrance on the western side that is guarded by 2 men during the day and 1 at night. I did not incapacitate anyone. I explained to the man on duty that I was the Prince of Dragonstone and that I had private business with Lord Oberyn, and that he could either let me in or explain to Lord Oberyn afterward why he turned away the Crown Prince at the door. He let me in.
And then
I made a point, and then I made an offer, and he is smart enough to understand when an offer is real and when it is politics, and this offer is real, and he knows it.
You went into Dorne alone and you broke his leg.
I went into Dorne with 4 men and I broke his leg, and then I explained to him why, and then I told him what I was offering and what I needed in exchange. The leg was the point. The offer was the purpose. You do not make that kind of offer without first establishing that you are serious about the consequences of refusing it, and I needed him to understand that I was serious before he could hear the rest. The sequence matters. If I walk in and make the offer first and then break the leg, he thinks the leg is a punishment for refusing, and the offer is something I will withdraw. If I break the leg first and then make the offer, he understands that the leg is not a negotiating tactic. It is a statement of fact about what I will do when someone threatens my family. The offer comes after because the offer is separate from the statement of fact. They are 2 different things.
he threatened me in front of the whole court, and you went to Sunspear and answered him in private, with 4 men in his own house.
If I answered him in public, it becomes a spectacle and a precedent, and the discussion shifts to whether the crown has the right to respond to Dornish lords who make statements in the Great Hall. And suddenly we are in a legal argument about the limits of noble speech rather than in a conversation about consequences. In private, it is just a message, clearly delivered and clearly received, and then an offer, clearly delivered and clearly received. No audience, no performance, no precedent for the lawyers to argue about. Just the two things that needed to be said.
You planned this before he even finished his speech in the hall.
I started planning it about 6 sentences in.
Your mother has been sitting here for the last 6 minutes, not saying I told you so, and I want to acknowledge that restraint because it must be costing her something.
It is costing me a great deal. I'm going to want credit for it later.
You will have it. Jon, sit down. We need to discuss what a Martell alliance looks like now that you have apparently decided we are having one. And I want your mother to have the conversation she is going to have with me regardless, and would prefer to have with you present.
The conversation is that bringing the Martells in is the right move, and it has been the right move for 3 years. And the reason it has not happened is that your father and I disagreed about how to approach it, and what your son just did is resolve the disagreement by doing the thing I was advocating for, and arriving at the result I said it would produce. That is the conversation.
I note that this is more diplomatic than the version I was expecting.
I am being diplomatic because Jon is in the room, and I would like him to see what it looks like.
Jon sits. Outside the window, the city moves through its afternoon business, and the answer to the Martell raven is already forming in the room around the 3 people who are going to give it. Later, when Robert has gone to find wine and the solar is quiet, Lyanna stands at the window for a moment, not saying anything. Jon is still in the chair, watching her.
I was in a tower in Dorne.
I know.
I spent almost a year in a tower in Dorne because a man decided I was less important than his purpose. You went into that country and you delivered a message about what happens when someone decides a member of this family is less important than their purpose. I understand why you did it. I want you to know that I understand why you did it.
Good.
I'm also going to tell you that I would have found a different way.
I know. You would have found a better way. You usually do. I did not have a better way available, and I had a warhammer available. And sometimes those are the only options, and you choose the one in your hand.
That is the most honest answer you have ever given me.
I learned it from watching you be honest.
She looks at him for one more moment and then turns back to the window. And the quiet between them is the kind of quiet that does not require filling. The realm has been watching what Robert and Lyanna built in that training yard for 3 years and deciding what to call it. The lords who call it merely strong have not been paying close enough attention. The lords who call it merely clever have been watching the wrong things. What has been built is not a king in waiting. It is a man who is the hammer, and the mind behind the hammer, in equal and inseparable measure. And the realm is going to spend a long time learning what that means. In Casterly Rock, Tywin Lannister adds a new column to his calculations, writing in his careful hand the things he now knows that he did not know before. The column is longer than he expected. He does not stop writing. That's my view of this alternate timeline. Westeros is a land filled with exciting stories and endless possibilities, and we are here to uncover them with you. If you want to accompany us on this journey across the 7 kingdoms and beyond, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.